essentially, 42 years ago, you have the exact same thing being said by that woman in Spencer, West Virginia, that's being said today in the various social media clips we've seen online from Springfield, Ohio. So yes, it's the same thing. They are bringing these people in now in a more controlled way than they were back in 1982, or that would have been 1982 we were filming that. So people now are brought in under this, what's called the CHNV visa, where they give Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, and Nicaraguans 30,000 per month could come in to work for, very cheap labor. And of course, it makes people very bitter. So that is the pitting, the dividing of the working class that they're always trying to do.
All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another Subversive History interview. Today, we are continuing our educational quest regarding Haiti, and we are very lucky to be joined by Kim Ives. Kim is a filmmaker, a journalist, and a representative of Haiti Liberte. He has been featured on Al Jazeera, Democracy Now!, TRT World, and many more. Kim, thank you so much. He recently co-directed a series with director Dan Cohen regarding current events in Haiti. So, Kim, if you would just please give us a brief introduction of who you are and kind of what you do so our audience knows who we're speaking with.
Right. I am an editor and a journalist here at Haiti Liberte. And I also work with an outfit called Crowing Rooster Arts, which makes films. So I've spent most of my last 50 years of life working as a engaged journalist, shall we say, around Haiti, making films and working on newspapers, basically in the role of pushing back against the mainstream narrative, which is always trying to mislead and confuse people. So I was raised in a Haitian family, basically, and that meant that I was well suited to get on that particular barricade of the informational war and ideological war. So that's what I've been doing for the past 50 years.
Amazing. So the one thing I did want to ask is exactly how long have you been doing work with Haiti? I think you mentioned it, but your first, or I don't know if it's your first project, but the first project that we're going to be talking about yours today is a film called Bitter Cane that I believe was released in 1983. So I imagine you had to be doing work probably years prior to 83 to really even be in the position to make a film such as that, correct? So how long have you been having this kind of intimate relationship with Haiti?
Well, that's just it. Yeah, it started about 50 years ago. I basically got out of school and immediately was drafted into the Haitian liberation struggle. And we used to go around with a slideshow. I don't know if you guys even know what that is, but, it's like a carousel and it would, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. And I'd give it
still had those in the 90s.
Yeah, right. And then the Haitians said, no, this isn't quite going to make it. We're not going to do it with a slideshow and the station wagon. We need something that we can show on the big screens around the world. And that's where Bitter Cane was more or less my first mission, my first task. And so that was basically 6-7 years in the making because it was a very difficult thing. Nowadays, you can make a film with your iPhone, but back then you needed a Aton or an Eclair or a Ariflex camera and the Nagra, and it was, a whole different kettle of fish back in the days of 16 millimeter film. Right. And under a dictatorship, it wasn't easy. So that was the big challenge of Bitter Cane. We managed to do it and, got an award-winning film out of the process. And then I spent years doing newspaper work, basically starting in 83, the same year Bitter Cane came out. And so that is really an alternance between print and film that I've been doing.
So under a dictatorship with secret police, right, you managed to lug around this gigantic camera around. I assumed transportation was few and far between.
Oh God,
it was the price of fuel and everything at the time too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was maybe better than it is now, but yeah, was the biggest challenge was how to do it without being picked up by the paramilitary force of the day called the Tonton Macoutes, who were sort of the eyes, ears, and fists of the dictatorship, the Duvalier dictatorship of. But this was under Baby Doc, Jean-Claude Duvalier, and his father, Papa Doc, was in power since 1957. So we were really in their heyday. They were all powerful, omnipotent, and we had to make sure that we had a good cover. So a lot of it was trying to figure that out, and it changed depending on what the circumstances were. But we managed to get the film in and out. We shot at a ratio of about 1 to 2, which was pretty unheard of. Usually it's 1 to 26, I think, was what they proposed. But, every 5 feet of film that we shot, we had to really plan it out. So,
right. I think the film is amazing. Even going back, it's maybe a few decades old, but I think that's what we're going to talk about is that it seems like a lot of the issues in that film are still very present today. But before we get into those specifics, I have to just ask you, because I'm a huge fan of this book, is the name of the film based on bitter fruit regarding Guatemala? Was this something that was inspirational to you to call it Bitter Cane?
No, it's funny, but I think there have been a number of bitter titled books and films. But no, Bitter Cane was just at one point the word came up, Bitter Cane, and we just liked the ring of it. It was like cellar door or something, that just had a certain ring to it. So we stuck with that, and it sort of fit the film.
Okay, great. So with that, I want to start with one of the opening clips of the film, and I think this kind of like encapsulate what I would consider the opening thesis of the project. So if we could just pull that up, and maybe we could just ask you about this situation specifically.
In the past 10 years, thousands of Haitians have fled their country on a journey that brings them face to face with deportation, imprisonment, and death. Their flight seems a paradox, since it comes in a decade when Haiti has received more international aid and investment than ever before. But this foreign aid and investment are changing the basic structures of Haitian society, and thus, in fact, are causing the flight of Haitian refugees.
So that kind of is alluding to that's kind of directly about what I was alluding to earlier. There's so much talk about Haitian migrants right now. Ever since Donald Trump made those comments during the presidential debate and all of this controversy surrounding Springfield, Ohio, when I hear that and it says, oh, there's a migrant crisis coming from Haiti, and that, oh, they've been receiving all of this aid, so why are they so poor? And there's foreign investment, and it seems that this aid seems to be hurting Haiti more than helping it. And I say that also with I just have recently been reading this book, Aid State, by Jake Johnson. Which has talked recently about the aid dependence of Haiti. So I just need to ask about that 30-second clip there. The situations that are going on then 40 years ago when you released this film seem to not have been ameliorated over these past 40 years, despite aid and investment. Correct? Would you say that that's correct?
Correct. Yes. Basically, the films that I've done and that we're going to see today, I guess, Bitter Cane and then the Another Vision series, really bookend a period which we could call the dismantlement of the Haitian neocolony. Originally, the neocolonies, the way the U.S. set it up after they invaded Haiti, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, the Philippines, etc., was they would set it up with a strong man, a tin-horn dictator, who would have the army and they'd go out and crush riots or peasants or whatever it was. And a lot of that we look at in Bitter Cane. But really at the beginning of the 80s, during the 70s and 80s, it all began to shift. And they started to say, okay, these tin-horn dictators aren't working out so well. We have to find a new paradigm, a new formula. And what that was the International Peacekeeping Force, the UN. We're going to put in people to govern the place through these phony baloney elections, the same way we have in this country, in the US, where the candidate who gets the most money wins. And then, if there's problems, we'll send in the UN, basically cheap soldiers from around the world. And we'll say it's the world, stopping this. So this was their way of basically stopping all these Che Guevaras and revolutions that were being spawned by these terribly arbitrary and corrupt dictators. So really, that's the Haiti we're looking at there. And there's an economic shift coming in at the time then, too, because really neoliberalism is beginning. And these colonies were mostly being used to suck out raw materials like agricultural product, bananas, right? Banana Republic, pineapples, sisal. Haiti was making rubber. It was a disastrous project for the Second World War airplanes. Sugar cane, of course, and coffee, etc. So mineral extraction, bauxite, nickel, gold, whatever. So they were mainly used for that, and they would use these people for that. But pretty soon, it was getting to the point where they were starting to say, hey, the people work cheaper there, cheaper than here in the U.S. Let's send the factories down there. So really, that's the beginning of the dismantlement of what was a fairly stable economic system, as exploitative as it may have been, in Haiti for about, let's say, 60, 70 years since the Marines intervened in 1915 for the first time. So they're starting to send down more and more factories to Haiti. And at the same time, they're beginning to dump their agricultural surplus on the country, wheat, rice, corn, and
which is subsidized, right? Like it's subsidized in the United States, so
right?
It's cheaper than they can't compete in the market with subsidies.
No way,
from the United States.
Some guy with a mile-wide combine in Arkansas is not, going to be able to have any problem with a guy with a hoe in a field in Haiti. So, so they basically flooded these countries. So this worked out perfectly for them as they rubbed their hands together. We destroy all the peasants, and now they end up workers in the cities.
It's so like that's the enclosure of the commons. It's like the enclosure of the commons all over again. And
exactly. And so now the whole world system begins to shift, and pretty soon we're not doing any manufacturing in the United States whatsoever. It's all being done overseas in these cheap labor havens, of which Haiti was, as it always is, the pioneer. And then gradually, this destroyed the societies to where you got to the point where you had such a huge lumpen proletariat in the cities, where 5% maybe of the city's population. When we're filming Bitter Cane at that time, the population of Port-au-Prince was about 500,000. Now it's 3 million. So a lot of those people are surviving just by hawking bottles of Coca-Cola and, broken radios. And, just it's a very difficult situation. And that's really Bitter Cane is showing the beginning of that.
It's amazing that Johnny. Okay, yeah, Johnny, do you want to say something good?
Yeah, so I believe the filming was in 1983, and if I'm not mistaken, 1978 they had culled all of the Creole pigs in Haiti because they diagnosed them with Asian swine flu. So it took such a ridiculous level. They literally killed all of the pigs that they could have possibly relied on.
That's an interesting talk about subversive history. That's an even more interesting. It wasn't 1978, I don't believe. It was 1982 or 3.
My bad.
And this was because essentially they were trying to sabotage Cuba.
Right.
And so they were flying these pelts, which were impregnated with swine flu in a Cessna out of Port-au-Prince Airport out over Cuba. Well, they dropped the pelts and some swine food started, but the Cubans had it together and they immediately quarantined it and they, stopped the thing short. But somewhere in Haiti, this thing spread. And all of a sudden, all of Haiti, or a lot of pigs in Haiti had swine flu. well, again, they rubbed their hands together at USAID and all the pig farmers, and they said, "Oh, great! Let's turn this into an opportunity." And so,
right. Life gives you lemons.
Yeah. So they massacred, even though a lot of them weren't sick. They massacred all the Creole pigs, these very hardy black little pigs which could eat, cardboard and survive.
Yeah.
And they brought in these big, what were they called, the cochon creole, the white pigs, which were these big fat things which needed concrete floors and air conditioning and everything. And they died like flies, but they brought them in. And the destruction of the Creole pigs is a very seminal period. There's even a film about it where they, really destroyed Haitian agriculture because the pigs were basically your bank. When you needed money, you sold your pig. And anyway, that's that story.
So you actually were specifically referring to this time period that we were kind of equating to the enclosure of the commons, where maybe someone who would have been agricultural or even subsistence farmers are effectively kind of robbed of their land, and then they all kind of have to make this mad dash into the city centers to now sell their own labor as their only commodity. We actually have a clip that kind of explains this. That's from your documentary. It's the next clip that we have in line here. So it's actually kind of fluid that you just brought that up, and we can actually illustrate that right now with the clip.
More and more people are coming into Port-au-Prince looking for jobs, leaving whatever they were doing in terms of farming on their own land. And consequently, what's happening now in Port-au-Prince is a huge slum area, and it's becoming a real problem.
In the past 10 years, there has been a huge migration of peasants from the countryside to the cities. This is because of all the foreign investment that has gone into areas such as infrastructure. When the U.S. builds roads, dams, and canals in the countryside, paying the workers with surplus food, which they can't sell anywhere else, this makes the value of the land rise. Then the big landowners kick peasants off the land so they can rent it to foreign companies.
So yeah, like you kind of like what you were describing right there. I think that clip kind of succinctly kind of illustrates everything that you were just saying right there about how it is the foreign investment that is actually causing this kind of like because I think that's the image that a lot of people have of Haiti in their mind. Slums that are around Port-au-Prince and the shanty towns or whatever you would want to refer to them as. But this is something that was what you would say is like the direct consequence of this foreign investment process.
Yeah, essentially the flight of humans from Haiti is in the face of the flight of capital from the U.S. The U.S. industries, capital setting up in Haiti basically was pushing people first into the cities and then onto the sea. And that's, we can bring it to the present day with the Biden program and giving people visas. They're trying to do it more humanely, shall we say, at this time, but it's the same process.
Got it. Okay. So we do have another clip here, and actually this is going to maybe get a little bit more into the specifics of the incentives that are afforded to the American companies that were going to Haiti at this time. So we can watch that one now.
Now, Haiti is basically tax-free for the first 9 years. In the industrial park, which is financed by Inter-American Development Bank and the Haitian government, it's tax-free for the first 9 years.
And after 9 years?
After 9 years, there's a graduated scale as far as taxes are concerned, but that scale is very minimal.
In addition to the tax holidays and the entrance of duty-free materials and equipment, and also all this material goes out of the country duty-free, there is also another advantage that Haiti has that most people are not aware of, and that is simply that there are no restrictions on the repatriation of capital. The dollar is allowed to circulate freely, and there is no restriction on the dollar leaving the country as well. Another advantage is that This, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the only countries in all of Latin America where the foreigner can own his own business, 100%.
Yeah. So could you maybe talk about a little bit of those policies and how they were these kind of like free market policies that are ostensibly to build an economy up were actually just a detriment to the development of Haiti?
Sure. They were free trade zones, as they're called, and they're like a cancer which is spread all over the island now. I think the Dominican Republic has 33 of them. Haiti has 3, basically. The one we're filming there in Port-au-Prince, right near the airport, Sonapi, and now there are 2 more in the north. One is built right on the Dominican border, and the other one is built on some of Haiti's most precious fertile farmland, which they basically bulldozed to put these big cement hangars to make electronics and things. And of course, this is going to be necessary for the production that they're going to have to move here when the war with China starts soon. And, you know, they're going to have to be looking for cheap labor, and $5 a day in Haiti is as cheap as it gets in this hemisphere. So anyway, we can get into all that later, perhaps. But
okay,
the point was that, this was the period that they were pioneering these cheap labor platforms. I could call them cheap labor prisons in Latin America and Haiti. This was kind of a new thing happening in Haiti, but now you have it in Costa Rica and Honduras and et cetera.
So pretty much like what we're looking at is like the recreation of sort of like a company town for most people that are maybe more familiar with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the old mining towns where you're not really paid in real money, you're paid in company dollars, sort of like monopoly money.
Well, you were actually paid in the currency of but there were no taxes on it. There was no, the stuff came in duty free. The state got nothing from it. Only the labor came from and stayed in Haiti.
Right.
So we're going to actually bring things back to the United States now. And this is actually, in my opinion, one of the most interesting clip for me. And it's a clip of a woman who I believe lost her job in the United States because of economic downturn and outsourcing. So can we just play this real quick?
To re-imprisonment and deportation.
Well, don't they give them welfare and everything when they come here and to treat them better than they do us? If I'm working and still ain't got enough to feed my family, they won't put me on welfare, but yet they'll put them on welfare a minute to get here.
Put who?
The Haitians or anybody else that comes.
You think they do?
Even the Mexican people, if they come across the border, well, they just give them a handout and say, come on, stay here.
Do you think they do give them welfare?
Yeah,
Sure they do.
I disagree with, that's what the news wants us to think.
Yeah.
I think if you look
Shout out to that man.
in a lot of states where these little, where they call them little business people, they look for people that's out of work, don't know their rights, and mainly Cubans and other people that are exiled or runaways from other countries because of the oppressed conditions. That's the kind that some of the American, so-called honorable American businesses look for, and it's not always a handout. Most of the time, I think they're extorted of their labor and just kept in a very poor condition for years. That's
So, I wanted to share that because this seems to be like an almost equivalent echo from what I'm hearing today. I think I saw someone in Springfield, Ohio saying this exact thing, like, I'm poor and I can't get welfare, and a Haitian person comes here and they buy him a house.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And it's it's uninformed and it's very, misunderstanding of the situation. But can you maybe just talk about like how this situation, it seems like it's a new situation if you haven't been paying attention to it right now in 2024 with Donald Trump and all this, but like this exact same type of rhetoric has been going on for decades. Yeah,
well, this is what you're showing has been the remastered version of Bitter Cane, and a shout out to Indie Collect, which takes the old classic documentaries of the 1980s, which I'm happy to say Bitter Cane is among, and remasters them from the original negative, and you end up getting, a very faithful version of the film from what it looked like as a 16 millimeter projection. So, yeah, that was an astonishing parallel, which has come up as we've shown the new version of the film to audiences. We showed it at Brooklyn Academy of Music this past summer. I just showed in Dominican Haitian Film Festival. It's showing in Vermont next week or next month. And essentially, 42 years ago, you have the exact same thing being said by that woman in Spencer, West Virginia, that's being said today in the various social media clips we've seen online from Springfield, Ohio. So yes, it's the same thing. They are bringing these people in now in a more controlled way than they were back in 1982, or that would have been 1982 we were filming that. So people now are brought in under this, what's called the CHNV visa, where they give Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, and Nicaraguans 30,000 per month could come in to work for, very cheap labor. And of course, it makes people very bitter. So that is the pitting, the dividing of the working class that they're always trying to do.
Right. So we're going to kind of wrap it up here on the bitter cane. I'm just going to bring it up. Instead of even playing the clip, I'm just going to ask you, I know that the end of the film, it says, we need to actually remove the comprador class. We need to remove these, these investors and these land speculators and the big farm owners and things like that. And we need a revolution. Unfortunately, that prescription was not fulfilled, correct?
Right. Well, it kind of was fulfilled because this film, The Bitter Cane, came out in 1983. And in some ways, it contributed, along with the paper that was launched that same year, Haiti Progrès, to the fall of the Duvalier dictatorship in 1986, which I think Brian talked about a bit in his talk with you guys. And, the U.S. thought it was going to be easy to do what they'd been doing all along. They just take their World Bank technocrat or, International Development Bank or World Bank, whoever, stick him in and, pay the money and he's in. And they thought it would be a cakewalk, but it wasn't. And it turned out that anti-imperialist liberation theologian priest, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, came in. And that's where there was a political revolution. Basically, from 86 till 1990, it was mayhem in the streets as the genie came out of the bottle and wrought havoc. And then he was elected, and then we entered this period of 2 decades of coups d'etats by the U.S. sending in international peacekeeping forces. So, that's essentially what brings us to the current period of Haiti, which has been basically run over by a bulldozer and then hit by a tornado.